I just have never understood what panicking means. If you tell me to panic and I'm a Chiefs fan, it's time to panic. I mean, what does that mean? Should you run out to Joe's and get 2 slabs of ribs? Do you hide under the table? Do you never watch football again? It's time to panic. Like what are we supposed to do? At panic time. Are you supposed to like quit your job and have a career metamorphosis? This is Stacking the Box with NFL insider Matt Verderame and Mark Carman. Matthew Stafford for MVP. The Rams winning Super Bowls at home. It's all there, Verderame. That's where we're at right now, baby.
We are through 3 weeks. Look, it'd be funny. You never had a team even play in a Super Bowl they hosted. Now you go 2 for 2 in the last 2 years. That'd be interesting. It is September 28th, and people are going to make grand, insane declarations based off of what we've seen to this point. Right now, the Rams are the best team in football, right? Like they're 3-0. They just walloped Tampa. I mean, the most impressive part of that game wasn't that they won. It's how physically they just beat them up. I mean, they beat the hell out of Tampa. And we're going to get to some other teams that are elite that are struggling defensively, the Chiefs and the Seahawks among them. The Buccaneers have been awful on defense. Awful. Like that has been a problem all season long for them. Dallas lit them up. Atlanta, who hasn't been able to score a point in the other 2 games they've played, essentially, they've lit them up. The Rams missed a couple of wide open touchdowns on deep throws and still scored 34 points. So that issues. But yes, right now Stafford's playing great. The Rams look very good. And I think you've got to say when you factor in just both sides of the ball, the coaching, they are the most complete team right now through 3 weeks.
Let me make a declaration that I'm extremely confident in. Matthew Stafford got screwed playing in Detroit. If he had been on a reasonable football team and a reasonable organization, his career, as great as it's been, would be looked at in a whole different way. Similar to the way, by the way, and not as talented, but the way Sam Darnold is recreating his career. And I'll even go as far as to say the way Mitch Trubisky is recreating his career.
Oh.
He's just sitting there in Buffalo, and he's trending upwards because
of what's Chicago thing. No, he's not. He's not trending. He's trending a left bench.
No. Ryan Clark on ESPN, national, talking Bears, got up there and said he apologizes to Mitchell Trubisky. It's a national thing that Trubisky is on the table as a halfway okay quarterback because he got so screwed playing in Chicago with that bozo who's still there. So I don't think it's just a Chicago thing. I'm seeing national people. Like the Bears have been a huge national topic. But getting back on point here, this Stafford and the Rams ain't going away, man.
No, they're not.
I mean,
they're not. They're not. They're very good. They've got 2 very good receivers, nice tight end and Higbee. The line is maybe the one concern. Like Whitworth is 100 years old. He's still good at left tackle. They've got some other spots there that are a little weak. But here's where I'm at with the Rams. Okay, you try to take out some overreaction. The Rams are a very good team, and right now they're the best team in football. Right now is a big part of that sentence. This is a long season. It's a long season. Teams get exposed. Like the Rams are the benefit right now. There's not a lot of tape on how they're going to play with Stafford because they've only played 3 games. They beat the Bears, who are absolutely hideous, and the Colts, who don't have a win. Like I'm not. And of course, they beat Tampa, who's a great team. I absolutely believe in the Rams. My point is, I think you look at this from the prism, at least I do, of January. If they played the Bucs again in January with Brady, how good would you feel?
Good.
You'd feel good.
I would.
Okay. Oh, that's fair. That's totally fair.
Yeah.
My point is, like, I'd still pick Tampa to win the game. I just would. And I'll be in full disclosure, a lot of it because of Brady, and he just wins those games and he find ways and all the rest, right? The other part of it is, I would take the Rams over the Packers. I don't think the Packers could stop them. I think the Rams would score 40 points if they had to. But could Aaron Rodgers go in there and just have a day where they just beat him? Yeah, I will say this. I think the Rams are set up to beat the Packers in the sense Donald against the interior and Ramsey on Adams. But look, the Rams right now, I'm a believer, I'm a buyer. We've talked about this. We've both been since before the season began. Like the Rams a lot. They're 3-0. They look great.
See, don't tell anyone, but and I don't know if this is being recorded or published anywhere, so I'll just say it. I've always been, except for when I was really a kid and Charles Martin was running around and dumping Jim McMahon on Soldier Field turf, I've always respected Green Bay because of, I've enjoyed Favre, I've enjoyed Rodgers. We're talking about almost 30 years of football at this point.
Yep.
And I love the fact that it's in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Lambeau Field. So I have I'd love to see the Packers continue to go forward. I loved Rodgers on Sunday night. I loved him with, 39 seconds to go. That's right. We're going to get in range and we're going to kick a 52-yard field goal, and I'm going to act like it's the first football game that I've ever played in. Don't question his motivation for another second, by the way. That dude is
he's all in.
He's all in.
He's all in. He's all in.
Yeah. So I'm not saying the Packers are going to be there at the end, but I'd love to see it if they were.
There'll be a threat because of him.
So, all right, let's go panic meter time. By the way, and we're doing it, and a zillion other people are doing it, and it's one of my worst sports radio topics ever. Is it time to panic? I just have never understood what panicking means. If you tell me to panic, and I'm a Chiefs fan, it's time to panic. What does that mean? Should you run out to Joe's and get 2 slabs of ribs? Do you hide under the table? Do you never watch football again? It's time to panic. Like what are we supposed to do? At panic time. Are you supposed to quit your job and have a career metamorphosis? Verderame, how do you panic? Explain panicking to me. The only time I can ever think of actually a panic is if you're watching your baseball team in the playoffs and it's 2 strikes and 3 and 2 and there's a runner on third, or maybe the bases are loaded and there's 2 outs and you go underneath the table because you can't watch. To me, that's a panic. But other than that, in the moment, I don't know what it means to panic in the middle of week 3 into week 4.
Level of concern.
But what is okay? So now we're moving from panicking to is there a greater?
Well, it depends how big my damn level of concern is. It might be a panic.
So if you have a huge level of concern, what is your panic? What's panic looking like?
I think 8+ is a full blown panic. Is it not?
That's fine. And then what do you do?
1 to 10 scale.
I want to know how you panic. How do you panic? What do you do? You drink. Drinking.
I'm kidding. Not really. But I don't know. That would be the answer, I guess, right? I don't know. I start chain smoking Marlboros.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't panic often, and I don't chain smoke Marlboros. But if I did panic, maybe I would chain smoke.
Please leave in the comments this week if you have decided to panic. What the hell that means? What do you do when you panic? It's time. Is it? And I see it on by the way, on every topic, is it time to panic? Is it panic time? Panic. Okay, it's almost as bad as the argument that when we judge players, it's by how many Super Bowl wins they have versus anything else. We have no variables other than that. But this is actually I don't know. It's different. It's panic time. Time to panic. I'm going to go run around the block for 3 straight days. That could be a good panic. What do you do when you panic? All right. By the way, is it time to panic for the Chiefs, Seahawks, or any of the rookie quarterbacks? Tackle it as you wish.
It's time to panic about Seattle's defense. I don't think it's time to panic about the overall team. Kansas City, look, I know we have a lot of Chief fans who listen to this podcast, so they of course get some shine on the pod. Their red zone defense is so bad, it's almost impossible to believe. They've given up 12 trips into the red zone and have seen 11 touchdowns scored. And the one time they stopped the team, a touchdown was called back. It has been, they don't even get the third down in the red zone. It's just they just hold hands with the other team and skip into the end zone together in unity. It's mind blowing. However, I look at the Chiefs and say they've probably played the hardest schedule of anybody this season. They've played 3 top 10, top 12 teams. They're 1-2 and have played awful in all 3 games and have almost won all 3 games. So I can't really get that worked up. I feel like they're still going to win 13 games. I really do. I feel like they at some point are going to go on a 10-game winning streak. But I will say, I have to give credit. Michael Salfino, who does some work at 538 and some other outlets, I believe, as well. He said or wrote that this Chiefs team reminds him of the Marino era Dolphins, where the passing game was great and nothing else was any good. And I thought about it, and I was like, I don't necessarily disagree with him. Now, the difference, I think, being that 1985 was not set up for that, or today is. Like, if you're great, like Marino and the Dolphins today would have been absolutely terrifying, right? Like, it wouldn't have mattered that they didn't run the ball. But there is a little bit of truth in that. Like, what do the Chiefs do other than throw the ball great? That's even above average, even average. They don't do anything average.
Look, the Chiefs have 321 yards on the ground. All right, it's over 100 a game. Edwards-Helaire, yes, he's, we got a fumbling issue, but
he's not fumbling the ball. But other than that, he's fine.
But he's averaging 4 yards a carry. I mean, we all see the talent. I don't look at him like they. And if we're rewinding back in time, you had Kareem Hunt. You could run the football. They don't need to run the football. I don't think that's. I don't.
Well, I just bring it
feels
up
like
because,
a reach. Yeah, go ahead.
That's fair, and I feel like it's. But I just wanted to bring it up because I did kind of. I read that and went, that's kind of an interesting way to look at them. I do think the difference is in the era, right? Like in the 80s, early 90s, you had to be able to run the ball, play deep. Like that's how it was. I mean, if you went to 3 wide in the 90s, it was like, whoa, like really, really opening it up. Like now, everybody does that. Like if you're great at throwing the ball, you're probably gonna win a ton of games. Look at the Packers, right? Like that's what the Packers do. Yes, they have Aaron Jones, but they win because they throw the ball. I think the Chiefs will be fine. I think the absolute basement for Kansas City is winning the division and being like a 2 or a 3 seed. Okay. And being the type of team that if you're Buffalo or Cleveland, like you're really excited to see them come rolling into town in mid-January? Probably not. Right. So I do think Seattle, there's more panic because the division's a lot tougher. The rookie quarterbacks, I will go on a different scale here. Mac Jones aside, because I think Mac Jones has been what we all kind of expected Mac Jones to be. I have a lot of concern about Zach Wilson. And I have some legitimate concern about Trevor Lawrence. Like, Lawrence has made some huge throws. The talent's obviously there. But I'm a big believer, especially at the quarterback position, in who do you get drafted by? What is the surrounding support, for you? You mentioned it at the top of Trubisky, right? Now, I disagree. I think he stinks regardless. But what does Mitchell Trubisky look like if Andy Reid's coaching him? Like, I don't know. I'm not saying he's Mahomes. He's not Mahomes. But is he good? Is he Derek Carr? I don't know. I think that matters. Jacksonville has no infrastructure. And the Jets, my God, that team has, no support for that kid at all. I'll let you speak to Fields. But I do really worry about those top 2 kids, especially Wilson, just being broken early in their careers.
So we got Joe Montana coming up in a second here, and we're just going to play part of our conversation with Joe. And I asked him about 2 quarterback systems, which, since you mentioned Fields, before Dalton got hurt, Fields played 5 snaps in week 1, and then he ended up playing a lot more in week 2 because Dalton got hurt in the middle of the game. But Montana came in. People might forget he played behind DeBerg. They would bring, Steve DeBerg would drive him down the field, and they get in the red zone, and Bill Walsh would say, "Go in there and get us a touchdown." And Joe will talk about it here, and it's interesting. And then on the back end of his career, the opposite was happening. Hey, Steve Young, go in there for Joe. He's old. He sucks. We're going to send him off to Kansas City in a second. But my point of bringing it up here is like how, Trey Lance and Justin Fields were in theory going to be developed that way. The Bears panic is real because they've proven more than anything else through 3 games this year that they do not know how to develop a quarterback. I don't know if Mitchell Trubisky would be good or not good, but he'd be better. I am convinced that he would be better than what he got in Chicago. So, and you got to work awful hard to have a game where you get 1 net yard passing. One is the loneliest number that I ever knew. That is nearly impossible to do, which is exactly what Nagy said. If Verderame, if you quarterbacked the Bears last week, it probably would have been negative 125 because you would
not have been good.
It wouldn't, but you'd have a chance. hey, Verderame, we're going to put you in the gun. And every time this is the strategy, you do not hold the ball for more than 3 seconds. You probably would pass for more than 1 yard.
I'd be deceased.
You might be deceased, but I think
Jason Peters, I'd have been deceased, man.
Right. Well, then that's the thing. 39-year-old left tackle who gets a call on a fishing boat from his old offensive coordinator, Juan Castillo. And his initial reaction when he sees the phone ringing is, uh-oh, I know who this is. Not sweet, I can't believe I get a chance to go back to the NFL, but uh-oh, I'm going to have a really tough decision to turn down millions of dollars to stay on this fishing boat. And I know that I'm not going to be able to do that. So I'm going to go play. I'm going to put other people like young quarterbacks in danger. And I'm probably going to get hurt myself, but I'm going to take the dough because I'm going to take the dough. That's the most logical thing to do. Right. Okay. But so my point is, yes, Bears situation. I don't know what's better for them. You've got Nick Foles. Playing a guy who's not ready does not serve him. And Fields is not ready. Not so much him, but the Bears aren't ready to coach him up. The Bears aren't ready to put him in a situation to succeed. I almost feel like it's better for him not to play. Like
I don't know how it happened on Sunday is even possible at the NFL level. Like 47 yards. 47 yards.
Yeah.
I mean, that's impossible.
They let Myles Garrett run untouched. He talked, not untouched, but in theory, I mean, he basically was untouched because Peters was there and they moved him around some. But he talked last week how he had never been chipped more in his life. And then the Bears didn't chip him at all. The Browns had 3 sacks coming into that game. 3.
I've seen, although they've been awful defensively. I will say, look, you see the people on the fringe of Twitter who will say, well, maybe Nagy just didn't want Fields to be successful. That's nonsense.
That's ridiculous.
That's nonsense. Okay. However, I do think that game plan was so bad. And they won't do this. I'm not saying they will do. That's a fireable game.
Yeah.
Like that game is so bad. There are some franchises that would have fired him. I firmly believe that. Now, the Bears won't. You and I have talked about this at length. Fine. There are other franchises in the league that would have fired him after that game. Like that was so embarrassing. You look at it and say, did you put an ounce of preparation into this game? Anything? I mean, how do you like I never say this, but I firmly believe it in this case. I could have been the head coach in that game and it would not have been any worse.
No, it would have been better because you would have let the offensive coordinator be the offensive coordinator and you would have stood on the sidelines and been a cheerleader, which is what Matt Nagy should do. Hello. And Ryan Pace should tell him to do. Hey, dude, I want you to be successful. I don't want to fire you, but I am going to fire you from being the offensive coordinator so you have a chance to keep this job because you don't have one if you're going to be calling plays. And you can work on being an offensive guru after you're out of the NFL, and you can do what Todd Haley's doing, being an offensive coordinator for a high school. And I love Todd Haley, by the way. That's when you can work on your offensive coordinatorness. Not now. Not with this quarterback. Sorry, you're out. Before we get to Montana, since we had this into the future, let's just do it now. Matt Nagy's not going to be the first coach fired. If there's someone's going to get fired during the year, it's not going to be him, in my opinion. And I don't think yours either. So who do you have?
You know, we're going to get into this with Ben Heisler. So I won't. I know I just said like that Nagy, it's fireable, all that. I think he has to be my pick only because we're both based here in Chicago. I mean, I'm outside Chicago a little bit, but in the market, and you obviously right in Chicago. Like the fans are going to go out of their minds. I really think we've reached a point here. It's not even a describable thing. If you've ever been in a market where it's happening, you just kind of can feel it. They have reached a point where I think they're going to lose to Detroit this weekend. I really do. Like Detroit should have beaten Baltimore and has shown a lot of fight. I just wonder if this team's ready to quit on Nagy. Like just flat out lay down and go, yeah, you know what? We're going to lose every game until he gets canned. We just don't care anymore. We don't believe in him. We don't think he believes in us. Like, I don't think it's going to be like they're like purposely losing, but I just think emotionally, I wonder if they just lay down. And Detroit comes in there and beats them 27-10. And then it's like, all right, yeah, we have no choice. I'll go with him. But you're right, Carman, in the sense, yeah, they probably won't fire him all season long. But I just look at that situation, and to me, that's the most toxic one going right now.
So You're like my radio colleague, Ed Obradovich, is like, they have to fire him. See, logically, I hear what you're saying, but that's not what they're going to do. Mark Trestman was a disaster.
He was.
And lost the locker room. Fully lost the locker room. That's one thing that Nagy, at least to this point, has not done. And they sat through a whole year with Trestman. 10 games, it was well over. They were done, and they didn't do it. They're not going to do it with Nagy. Speaking of old quarterbacks, Verderame, as we go into the future, Ben Roethlisberger, it's over. We all know it. Do you think he makes it through the year as starting quarterback for the Steelers?
If he's healthy, yeah. And I don't. And look, if they had any backup at all, I don't think that'd be the case. But who the hell are they playing? Who are they playing? Don't tell me to me these Neanderthals come out with what about Dwayne Haskins? What about Dwayne Haskins? You're going to bench Ben Roethlisberger for Dwayne Haskins? Stop it.
Did you just call anybody?
So many people are just morons come out with this stuff. They're just idiots. I'm sorry. I have no time for this. Like, just stop. We got to give Dwayne Haskins a shot. Really? You really have to give Dwayne Haskins a shot? I don't think so. And by the way, like Mason Rudolph, better than Dwayne Haskins, but still terrible. Like, you're not. Look, if they had an option, like if they had Trey Lance or somebody like that on the bench, I think they would make the move. They don't. So if you're them, like, what are you gonna? You're gonna bench him for what? To be just as bad at the position, if not worse? I think you're gonna ride it out. I do. I think you're playing him 17 games. I don't think you're making the playoffs. I mean, I look at Pittsburgh, and I don't know. I'll put you on the spot a little bit. Where are they in the rankings in the AFC? Where are they? 10th? Something like that? They're not good. I think they'll ride it out.
Well, and to your point there, though, if you're not going to play Dwayne Haskins when you're 10th and you know it's over, you're just starting him because you want to show him the respect that he deserves for being the incredible Hall of Fame player that he's been at Pittsburgh. Is that it?
I mean, yeah, and again, because they don't have a better option. Like, I think it's a real. Remember a couple of years ago, Eli Manning got benched for Geno Smith, and there was like a borderline revolt when that happened, and it happened for one game, and Geno Smith was predictably terrible, and the Giants were like, "Oh yeah, sorry about that, Eli. Here's the rest of the season." I feel like with Roethlisberger, and I don't normally do this because pro sports fans win at all costs every day. I think they almost owe it to him. Let him play it out. Let him play it out. And if you go 6-11, 7-10, then you do. And you live with it. And you draft a quarterback next year.
Also, somehow, some way, the Steelers have always found ways to win games with Mike Tomlin. So
true. They're at a losing season.
They might end up having a much better record than they actually should have based on their talent level. But you look to the AFC, who are they better than right now? Definitively, the Jets, Jacksonville, Indy, Houston. I think you can say that all, and that's it. I think that's definitively better than those teams. I think that's probably fair.
It's not a big list.
But if I was a Steelers fan, and when you get in, and this thing did go south, and you got to 4-7 or something like that,
right?
Which seems about right. You wanted to spin it out with Dwayne Haskins. I'd want to see it because, you got to move to the future at some point, and I would want to give Ben a standing ovation every time he stepped on the field, something along those lines. All right, who's the worst team in football, Verderame? Who ends with the number one pick in the 2022 NFL draft? That's right. We're already looking ahead after 3 weeks.
Well, I think we've got an idea of what a lot of teams are, and I'll tell you right now, the Jets are the worst team in football. I think it's close. Like, Jacksonville's got an argument. So those two teams have really improved after having the first and second overall picks. The Jets can't score. I mean, they can't score a point. It's incredible how bad they are. I mean, they get shut out in Denver. They score before garbage time 8 points, something like that, in Carolina. They scored 6, I believe, against the Pats. Sorry, they're hideous. That team's lucky if it wins 2 games. It really is. That team is god awful.
I'm doing big man bets with Nick Mangold, the proud Jet, and he was out in front long before Big Man Bet, saying that he thought that Sam Darnold got a rough ride in New York, and they did not put him in position to win. So that makes it triply hard to evaluate Zach Wilson. But yeah, they've scored 20 points in 3 games, and they've got the Titans this week and the Falcons both at home the next 2 weeks. Then they go to New England. They got the Bengals, and you're at the Colts. Those are some options. So if you're going to win a game, it better be coming quick here.
I'm serious. Like, I never pick a team to go 0-17 or 0-16, whatever. I'm not picking the Jets to not win a game. They're arguably worse than they were a year ago. Like, this is hilariously bad. Hilariously bad. They have nobody. Who is the best player on the Jets?
On December 26th, they host Jacksonville. Could that be a battle of winless teams?
No, but it's absolutely probably for the number 1 pick.
That is, I would love a winless Jets versus a winless Jags. You'd have me tuned in for the Wilson battle versus Lawrence the day after Christmas. Let's go.
By the way, Wilson's thrown 30 picks in his sleep this year. I'm not easily he's going to throw 30 picks.
Yeah. Speaking of throwing picks, let's just touch on this quickly. Or not that quickly, however long you want to go. And we're going to hit it up a bunch here with Ben Heisler in our bet segment here. Our last game we're going to do is Tampa and New England. But what are you looking forward to here with the Bucs and the Pats this weekend?
Just the atmosphere. You know, you don't get games like this very often. You really don't. You know, Jordan's return to Chicago. But that was almost even a little different, right? Like, it was – the Wizards were terrible. The Bulls were bad. Like, Brady just won a Super Bowl. Like, he just left his, to use the analogy, right? Like, he just left his significant other and, like, upgraded in their face, right? There's a lot of that. Yeah, go ahead.
But I just love that you brought up the Bulls and Jordan and that whole thing. Because I do wonder if you're a New England fan. Like, I went to that game. Jordan comes back. I was rooting 1,000% for the Wizards and Michael to beat the Bulls. I mean, I wanted him to win by 40 and dunk all over Jerry Reinsdorf and Jerry Krause.
Did they win that night?
I think they snuck by. I don't even remember, to be honest. But I think the Wizards won that game, and Mike played okay. He had some great moments the first year with Washington that gets not talked about, but that's not for this time. If you're a New England fan, are you rooting for the Pats? Or you rooting for Brady? Because I think there's got to be at least some people in that stadium that like feel bitter that Brady's not there, and they'll root for him to beat New England.
Oh, I think there will be. And, I think most people will cheer him and give him a massive ovation. And I think whoever boos him is a moron. I mean, how could you boo the guy? Now, I thought about that. Do you really, we just had Montana on the podcast, which, by the way, not getting to interview him is one of the great regrets of my entire career. So that's got to be rectified next time we have him on.
No problem.
Just a tragedy.
Although I'm not in control of these things, but
I don't care who is. It's a tragedy.
I agree.
But listen, I think, Montana got to play against the Niners when he was with Kansas City, but it was at Arrowhead. He never went back and played a Candlestick. Unitas never went back and played against Baltimore that 1 year with the Chargers. You don't have that many examples in the NFL. Of course, Marino played his whole career in Miami, stalled back with the Cowboys, Bradshaw. There's not, there's really not that many examples of a moment like this in the NFL, of the great conquering hero return. Most of those guys, especially, most talking quarterbacks, they played their whole careers with these teams. I mean, the only example I can think of was Manning with going back to Indianapolis. And Luck beat him in that game. And beat him pretty good on Sunday Night Football.
Yep.
So that's an example, right? But that's probably about the best one. Again, Montana would have been the best one, but he played the game in Arrowhead and he won the game. He beat a team that ended up going on and winning the Super Bowl. But I expect the Bucs to play very, very well. Like you said, we'll get into that with Ben Heisler. But I expect it to be a very emotional night. I expect Brady to be amped up. And I expect him to play very, very well in the game.
I mean, the guy's played in 7,000 huge games, but as far as the regular season goes in his career,
this is number one.
This has got to be number one.
It is.
It has to be. I'm going back to New England to play Belichick.
I will even go a step further. I wonder Does this mean more to him in some ways than some of the Super Bowls?
I'm guessing not, because I don't think he's super bitter at New England. Like, I think mostly he appreciates them. Like, Rodgers going back to Green Bay, if that happens down the line, that'll be
like when Favre went back.
Yeah, I mean
Yes.
and yeah, probably very equal, because Brett wasn't thrilled either. But Aaron's is honestly, like, Aaron has more beef for beef than Brett.
Yeah.
Like, Jordan Love, get the what out of here. But I love the drama. Quickly before we get to Heisler, everybody enjoy Sunday night. Panthers 3-0. You got them in the playoffs?
I do. I don't think they're a great team. I think they're a very improved team, and I think they're a capable one. They have some big injuries, but their schedule is really light. They do not have a hard schedule. You go down, and I won't sit here and reel them all off. If you go down and look at their schedule, they should definitely win 10 games. They really should. And if you're looking at the conference, who's going to beat them out? I mean, okay, so let's say the Bucs win the division, the Packers win their division, Cowboys win their division. Other than Carolina, is anybody else making the playoffs out of that group? I mean, maybe Minnesota, maybe New Orleans, but you could certainly make the argument for Carolina over both those teams. And in the NFC West, well, I think it's a great division. I don't think all four are getting it. So, yeah, I actually like Carolina.
Darnold, I'm happy for.
For sure.
I mean, he's not playing at a Pro Bowl level, but it's pretty damn good. I mean, quarterback rating nearly 100. He's thrown 3 touchdowns, only picked off once. Completion percentage up near 70. Out of New York. You go, Sam Darnold. Congratulations, buddy. And I picked the Panthers to be in the playoffs, I think, for my last NFC team when we did at the start of the season. So feeling good on that one at 3-0. And as promised, the man-inching editor from FanSided, FanSided.com. If you're not going there, we're going to find you and we're going to hunt you down along with FanSided.com, damn it. And yes, go to WinBet.com for all your football and everything else odds. Ben Heisler, have you gotten one game wrong all year so far?
Not the ones I'm counting. Nope. We're just cruising along completely undefeated. No, of course we've gotten things wrong. I was on this very show last week when we recorded on Tuesday, and me telling the world that I thought that the Steelers had a chance to be a survivor pick. So we get things wrong all the time. I think the difference between us and a lot of other sites that talk about betting content is that we'll laugh at it and we'll hold ourselves accountable and try to do better the next week. We've got some really smart dudes over on the staff, and we're getting a little bit better each week. But yeah, we absolutely get things wrong. We just own it.
I'm here to lie for you, Ben. That's what
I appreciate that.
Verderame, you don't have any problem with me lying, right?
Why start now?
Right, exactly. All right, we got 6 games here, team, and it's a very interesting week. We'll hit the Bucs and the Pats on the last one here, but let's start with the red hot, at least from a Chicago Bears perspective, at least somewhat, although I don't even think that the Bears are giving Cleveland credit for how bad the Bears are. But Cleveland is a 2-point favorite on the road at Minnesota. The Vikings coming to life last week. One of the lower totals this week. Well, actually probably more in the middle, but 52.5. Ben, you rolling with the Browns?
This is a really tough game to handicap. I think the odds makers got this one right, and we've already seen the line tick up just a little bit towards Cleveland, which makes sense considering what they did. It was sort of the number 2 broadcast on Fox. Watching Justin Fields and Matt Nagy get completely dismantled was abysmal. But Minnesota also had a nice win in the afternoon in their own right, and they shut down Seattle and gave them 0 points in the second half. So I think this is about trying to understand where the public is going. The Bears' incompetence is leading a lot of people to back on Cleveland right now. And the Vikings' offense has been really good, but if you also look at their second halves the last couple games, they've been very pedestrian, and they've taken their foot off the pedal when Kirk Cousins has been outstanding in the first half. So I'm looking at this matchup with Kevin Stefanski going up against his former team, Mike Zimmer. They know each other fairly well. They know their strengths and weaknesses. Stefanski's going to know what Kirk Cousins is able to do and what his strengths and weaknesses are. I kind of like the total as opposed to taking a side here. I'm going to go under 52.5. We've seen this line actually go up a couple of points over at WinBet as well. It just feels to me that if you're trying to pick on either one of these sides, I think both teams have an equal chance here. And I think it's going to be a little bit more defensive oriented than most people expect, given how much Minnesota has put points on the board, and also with Cleveland knowing that a lot of teams can score on Minnesota. So I think we're going to see a little bit better defense here, especially knowing what we saw from last week with both of these two teams.
Verderame, the Vikings could be 3-0, damn it.
Yeah. They're not, but they could be. That said, I'm picking Minnesota to outright win the game. Like, I don't know how good Cleveland is. I think they're really good. Like, I've liked them since the offseason. I know Carman, you and I talked about them a lot this offseason. But their defense has not been very good. And I know that's a weird thing to say when you listen, oh my God, they held Chicago to 47 yards. I think that's more of a Chicago problem than it is like, wow, Cleveland's a steel curtain all of a sudden. They got torched by Kansas City. And before he got hurt, Tyrod Taylor was going up and down the field on Cleveland with no problem whatsoever. Like, I think Minnesota is better than people think. They're a weird team. If I were a betting man, I'd never bet on them because they're just bizarre. They can lose any game. They can win any game. But they're at home. I like them in this game. I think it's a coin flip of a game, but if you're giving me points, I'll take the points. And I think the Vikings win by a field goal or so.
You get 2, so you win by 5 based on, let's call it Verderame logic. Yeah, I see Cleveland, I see Minnesota, and I think Chicago, and I want to move along from the now famous narrative that the Bears messed up Mitchell Trubisky. But I'll stop talking Chicago Bears football. And by the way, I'm writing these picks down right now, which I have not done in other weeks. So you two I'm going to be coming back next week with exactly what happened, damn it. So the pressure is officially on. All right, let's move to game 2, which is your pathetic Chiefs. Back-to-back Verderame. What's up, man? I thought they were going to go 20-0. 6-point favorite, though, at Philly, who looked terrible on Monday night. They
opened at 7.5 now. 7.5.
Betting it up.
We talked about them at the beginning of the show. They never cover, ever. We talked about this last week, and I remember someone on this podcast, Mark Carman, saying the Chiefs were going to blow out the Chargers. How'd that go? Not
I didn't
so
say
much.
That. I never said that.
We can roll the tape. You absolutely said it. That being said, I will say, if they're ever going to cover a spread, this is it. I mean, you've lost 2 in a row. Philly's on a short week. They're all beat up on the offensive line. They don't have a single weapon who's a Pro Bowl caliber player. There's not one, right? Like, no offense to Devonta Smith, Miles Sanders. None of those guys are Pro Bowl level players. The quarterback, I like Hurts' potential. At this point, he's bottom third of the league.
Stinks.
If Kansas City doesn't beat that team by 10, 13 points, every alarm bell in the world should be going off about the Chiefs. So I did not pick them to cover week 1. I picked them to cover week 2. I didn't pick them to cover last week. I think they will actually cover the spread. I do. I think they will win this game. I think they will win it going away.
It's rough, right? Watching what Kansas City has sort of become of themselves. And I actually wrote about this over at FanSided this week, that if you're going to find an opportunity to find value in Kansas City, it's probably now. We've seen their Super Bowl odds go from opening up at plus 450 now to 7-1 behind Tampa Bay still. And you got the Rams and other teams starting to close in, Packers as well. You're right, Verderame. Like, this is a game that they absolutely need to win and win big, giving them a little bit of momentum and feeling good about themselves, because they got Buffalo at home on Sunday Night Football the following week. And Buffalo, after a bad loss in week 1, has started to flex their muscles a little bit as that team in the AFC that's going to be around for a while, and you're not going to want to mess with them. And Josh Allen is getting back to that MVP type of level that we've seen from him throughout most of last year. But I mean, if you're looking at actual numbers with how bad the Chiefs have been against the spread, they started off middle of a couple years ago going 15-2 against the spread. They couldn't miss. And now they're 1-12-1 against the spread over the last 14 games. Like, there's a part of me that wishes that the Eagles just would have shown up a little bit on Monday night, so we could have gotten the Chiefs at maybe a better number here. But they didn't. And I think everybody is sort of siding with Verderame here, thinking, like, this has to be the week. But 7.5 after this record against the spread on the road at Philadelphia with your head coach currently in the hospital, something feels off again, and this number is going to continue to climb because everyone's going to say this is the week for Kansas City. If the number goes back down, we talked about how it opened initially at 6. I would have loved to tease the Chiefs as part of a 2-team teaser and get them at a pick 'em because they're going to win the game. But now that you're up to 7.5, it just feels like a stay away for me at this point. If I had to take a pick, I'd probably hold my nose and take the Eagles at plus 7.5 because that's just what you do for home teams getting 7.5, even against teams like the Chiefs. But I just can't bet on them right now. It's just not in good conscience.
We talked about it at the beginning of the show. They've been awful in the red zone, and they have no pass rush. The thing in this game, and maybe I eat my words. We can run the whole thing back next week. I don't think Philadelphia is getting in the red zone very often in this game because I don't think they have a very good offense, and I do think the Chiefs are going to get pressure in this game. I think by hook or by crook with Spagnuolo. If they've got to bring the house, I think that's what they're going to do. And the one thing that I actually think is really important, and this is a little deep dive here real quick. Look, Philly did not run any pre-snap motion or at the snap. No motion plays at all against Dallas. Why does that matter against the Chiefs? Well, anyone who knows Steve Spagnuolo knows the Chiefs do a lot of disguising of their coverages. Now, it doesn't matter when you're complete bullshit and you're giving up 35 points a game, but they try to disguise. Herbert has seen them many times before, as is Jackson, as is Mayfield. Hurts is a young kid. He has never seen this defense. And when you run pre-snap motion, that obviously helps the quarterback to decipher, is it man, is it zone, whatever. If they don't run pre-snap motion and Hurts has no idea what he's looking at, that's a major problem for Philadelphia.
Really quickly, Carm, I just want to throw this out there as well. Chiefs can't stop the run, right? It may have been a little bit better, not great against Eckler. Eckler still had a great game, but they're 31st out of 32 teams in stopping the run. Now you got to deal with Jalen Hurts. If this isn't the week that Miles Sanders explodes for Philadelphia, barely had any touches last week, then you got an even worse situation on your hands. So I don't think it's going to be as easy for the Chiefs to be able to slow down Philadelphia because of the threat of so many guys with speed on Philadelphia's offense. Are they great offensive players? No, but it's still a threat that could extend drives, keep the defense on the field. And right now, the turnovers on the offensive side of the ball are pretty scary for Kansas City. So I do think this has the chance for Philadelphia to cover, even at 7.5.
Verderame, you should do a Chiefs podcast or something.
I should. I'll think about it.
I think there's this thing called Arrowhead Addict out there. Ben, you should move to Kansas City or something. Oh, you live in Kansas City and have punted on the Bears and are now a Chiefs fan. All right. I kind of did the same thing, at least for a period of time. Hey, Seattle and San Fran. The Niners will be healthier this week. Seemingly can't be worse, right? They're 2.5-point favorites at home against Seattle, who dropped their first game. Totals 52. Ben?
The 49ers should win this game. If you look purely at how terrible Seattle's been against stopping the run. We were talking about how bad the Chiefs have been. Seattle's worse. Kansas City's 31, Seattle's 32. And that's what the Niners do incredibly well. Now, the problem is that Trey Sermon, that was supposed to be his breakout game last week against Green Bay, really didn't do much. And we're going to see whether or not they're going to continue to stick with him. But it should be a healthy dose of Trey Sermon, and the 49ers should be able to make sure they take care of the ball and win that game. Here's the problem. These are the situations that Russell Wilson throughout the course of his career has done really well. He's 20-11-1 as a road underdog in his career. And Kyle Shanahan, for as much credit as we've given him, has been really bad in these situations, 8-19-1 over his career as a favorite. So are you going to go with the trends, or are you going to go with what the matchup is indicative of saying? I think this line has a possibility to move to 3. Right now, it's 2.5 in favor of the 49ers. And if it does go to 3, I'm going to hop on Seattle very quickly. I think this is a good matchup for them, not only to cover, possibly win outright. They've given their last 2 games away. And now that they're 1-2, knowing what's at stake in a division that is arguably the toughest in football, I think they show up ready to play. I think they make a statement. So I like Seattle to cover. I might consider them as another teaser play, especially if I can get them past 8.5, 9 points. Move them up as a big underdog as opposed to just right around that 2.5 or 3. But I think this is a good opportunity for Seattle and Russell Wilson to get a big win on the road.
I wish the Chiefs and the Seahawks could play each other because there's nobody would ever punt and the over could be 100. Seattle's defense is abominable. And I don't know that there's a whole lot of upside to it. Like, I think there's just kind of what they are, right? Like, Wagner's great. Adams is great in the box safety. And then it's just like a whole bunch of guys who aren't good. So I think Shanahan's going to scheme the hell out of him. That being said, you're right, Ben, about Russell Wilson. Like, this is the kind of game where he throws for like 430 yards and they just stay in the game. Seattle plays the weirdest games of anybody in the NFL. They hang in games that they shouldn't really be in. Sometimes they even pull them out. I'll take the points. Seattle to cover. I think the Niners will win, but it's also one of those early games where it's like Seattle's desperate as hell in this game. So there's also like they're going to do everything possible to win. I'll take the points. I think I'll pick the Niners to win, but it's a coin flip. Like, who makes a big mistake? And that's where I am on it.
All right, NFC West battle, top of the division, 3-0. 3-0, everyone's talking about the Bucs and the Pats, but this is, well, you can certainly make an argument, the best game of the week. The Rams, though, a heavy favorite, and everyone, as we talked about earlier, or not everybody, but a lot of people have the Rams in the Super Bowl, and why not? 6-point favorite for L.A. Ben?
Again, really good line set by WinBet, and I'm trying to evaluate whether or not I have to find one of the public teams to be able to move off on and fade them here. Right now, the public's all over the Rams. Matthew Stafford is the top MVP at plus 500 at WinBet right now, and it's deservedly so. He's been terrific. I'm trying to remember who had the line, but they talked about him and Sean McVay's offense really unlocking it, doing what Jared Goff hasn't been able to do. And Cooper Kupp's been flat out ridiculous. Nobody on Arizona is going to be able to cover him, especially in the slot. So advantage Rams for sure. But at the same time, Arizona's 3-0, but they've had moments where they probably have gotten away with a few things, including Minnesota missing that kick. They should be 2-1 so far this year. It just feels like it's a large line for the Rams coming off a monster win against Tampa Bay. I think Arizona can keep this close, and I expect this line to continue to move in favor of the Rams. So if I can get Arizona plus 6.5, I'm probably going to take them. I also like the under in this game as well, just because the Rams defense is starting to get themselves figured out. Murray's going to be running for his life throughout most of the game. Just a fairly high total, even though both of these two teams can score at will. So I feel like of the two NFC West matchups, this is the one that I expect to go more so towards the under compared to what we were just talking about with the Seahawks and the 49ers.
Are you paying attention to what Heisler's doing here, Matt? He's saying if the line moves, I kind of like the under. Like he's making himself impossible to pin down.
I made a play. I said I'm taking the under on 54.5. I said if you're talking about the spread, this is how I would evaluate it over the course of the week. But no, I am pinned down. I gave you the play under 54.5, and I'll stick with it.
Okay, I got it.
I'll be succinct. I think the Rams are going to earhole Arizona in this game. I don't think Arizona can stop them. I think pretty much it's going to be just Stafford picking apart what is not a good secondary outside of Budda Baker. Like, the Cardinals should have lost to Minnesota and really had a fight with Jacksonville for about 3.5 quarters. Like, got a pick 6 in there. Like, not exactly a game you're like, wow. Like, if you're I'm sorry, if you're a true honest to God contender, you should be plowing Jacksonville. That shouldn't be a game that you need Byron Murphy to pick off Trevor Lawrence running the end zone with. Now, I like Arizona. I think they're a good team. I do not think they're in the same class as the Rams. And I also think Kingsbury is a brutal coach. Like, how do you kick a 68-yard field goal at the end of a half in a game that, all you have to do is avoid the biggest mistakes in the world to win, and you give up an 109-yard kick return for touchdown? How does that happen? How does that happen?
From a coaching standpoint, you don't think the dude's going to run it back, so you take a shot at it.
You know what? 68 yards, which then on top of it falls short.
Justin Tucker hit from 62. It was probably going to be good from 65.
From 66, and it was not
66,
good for more.
Sorry.
Carm, it was not good for more than 66.5, and it's a crossbar. Okay, so
no. Who kicked who? Okay, I'm thinking of a different kick that just crossed.
Well done by you. Look, no, it's the bottom line to me is I like Kyler Murray. I like the Cardinals personnel. I don't think they're as good as the Rams. I think this is a game that's like 34-20. So I would actually take the Rams to cover, to obviously win. I think right now they're the best team in football, and we're going to start hearing all this stuff about Super Bowl. It's September 28th. Like, call me on Christmas about where all these teams are. But for right now, yes, the Rams are the best team in football.
Really quickly, if I can give myself a bit of a shameless plug here on Stacking the Box, because Verderame sort of led me right into it. Cliff Kingsbury, I set odds today. They're not available at WinBet, but I set odds for the first coach to be fired in the NFL. And I think it'll surprise a lot of people that one of those 6 candidates I had listed, Cliff Kingsbury, 25-1. So he's at the bottom of the list, but Cardinals' next 3 games coming up, 2 in the division, at Cleveland on the road. I think they go, they're hosting San Francisco in addition to 2 road games. They could be staring 3-3 in the face after a 3-0 start, and a lot of people might be wondering, is Cliff the right guy to go ahead and get us over the top? Is this going to be a wasted season with all the veterans we have here? Just wouldn't be surprised.
Who was number 1?
Number 1. I want you guys to guess. Who do you guys think number 1?
I'm going to go ahead and guess the guy who couldn't scheme up 50 yards of offense.
No, he better not be number 1. He ain't going anywhere right now. I don't know, man. It's a tough call. I don't see anybody on the hot seat right now. You're not saying Pete Carroll. Go ahead.
I went with Joe Judge.
You would have been my second choice.
Joe Judge, 4-1 odds, followed by Mike Zimmer at plus 550, and then Matt Nagy of the Chicago Bears at 6-1, just because there's no precedent for the Bears to fire a head coach in the middle of the season. Now, if they get their asses kicked by the Lions, it's a completely different ballgame.
But Joe Judge was like beloved 3 games ago. They're not firing Joe Judge. That'd be terrible, right?
Things change quickly.
Yeah, they're 0-3 in a winnable division. They've given 2 games away. It's not reflecting on him right now. All throughout the offseason, he was yelling at guys and people were fighting and players were starting to not be amused by this act anymore. I think this is wearing pretty thin. Hey,
Ben, that's why they pay you the big bucks, brother. You come up with a Joe Judge, and maybe you'll be right on that. It ain't gonna be Matt Nagy. That dude is making it through the season. He might get fired from being the offensive coordinator, which needs to happen. All right, 2 more to go. Quickly, Pittsburgh and Green Bay. Packers are a 3.5-point favorite. I, for one, fully enjoy the post-game interview with Aaron on the field. Isn't football great? Oh, the dude still loves playing the game. Maybe he'll play as long as Brady. Maybe any team should be considering Aaron Rodgers after this year when he leaves Green Bay. But what do you guys got this week? Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, he said isn't football romantic?
Yeah.
In addition to being great.
Sleep with a football. I respect it.
Yeah, everybody's got their own shtick. Rodgers and the Packers, by the way, if we're talking about fading the public, boy, has this line exploded. It's gone from opening at -3.5 to -6.5 for the Packers on the road against the Steelers team that I thought would come out and play at least better defensively against Joe Burrow, who turned the ball 3 straight times against the Bears in week 2. Didn't happen. Burrow, Jamar Chase, who's now moving up the odds for Offensive Rookie of the Year, looked outstanding. Pittsburgh's a mess. Ben Roethlisberger's a complete shell of himself. There is a stat that we wrote about over at BetSided that he's now completing only 43% of his passes on target, according to Pro Football Focus. That's down from like 73% last year. It's abysmal, but as long as the public, this is going to be the public play of the week. Everyone's going to be all over Green Bay. They're back at home. They're playing well. Steelers defense, if they get TJ Watt back this week, are going to make it competitive. And I'll hold my nose and I'll do it. But if this number gets to 6.5 or 7, give me Pittsburgh to cover on the road, in large part just because their defense plays well.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and be the public. The Packers are going to kill them in this. I've watched the Steelers in all these games. That stat by Pro Football Focus at 43%, like that might be generous, which is amazing considering, and I'm not even kidding with this, 9 out of every 10 throws are 5 yards down the field. How are you that inaccurate? Like, he can't do anything. And this is, look, Carm will back me on this because obviously we've been doing the pod for years together. As they were going 11-0 last year, I was a voice in the wilderness saying he stinks This team is not anywhere near as good as this record. Like, he is going to kill them at some point in the season. And he sure did as the season wore on. Now we're 3 games into this year. He can't throw a pass. I mean, they have not played upper echelon defenses. They've played the Raiders. They've played the Bengals. They can't score. Like, I get the Raiders are 3-0. I understand that. I don't think anybody looks at them and thinks, oh, they have a really good defense. Nobody thinks that about Cincinnati. And yet, Pittsburgh, it is a process for that team to get to 16, 17 points. They just can't do it. I always feel like if you play a team like Green Bay, you better at least get 27. They ain't getting a 27. Like, I don't even think they're getting a 20. They're off. So I will take the Packers to cover that line.
I love Verderame's conviction on things in life, for the record. Public, I'm with him. Public, I'm against.
And I hate the public, but I'm with him.
I got it. But you're not afraid to be with them when it makes sense for you. You believe, Verderame, what you believe, maybe more than anybody in the history of people believes what they believe. You're very good at believing your own beliefs.
Probably not a good thing.
Nah, I think it is a good thing. It certainly serves you in some ways. We can do a deep psychological dive on that another time. Ben, let's wrap it up here. Tampa, 6.5 points on the road at New England. Brady gonna stomp on Belichick and tell everybody that, of course, I was the guy that was of supreme value here, and this dude just coached me. That's what's happening. I'm excited to see it.
I'm incredibly excited to see it. And Brady's already come out, and there have been a couple of conversations that he's had from the national side where he's talked about how he knows everything that New England is going to do to prepare for him. And they know what's going to be said in the locker room. And they know that this is how they're going to scheme against him and what Belichick's going to talk to his team about. If you're Bill Belichick, let's just think about this for a quick second. If Brady comes out and actually does the one thing that the Patriots have always preached not to do, which is provide any sort of bulletin board material or anything that's going to provide some sort of an edge, if you're the best coach to ever do it in Belichick, aren't you taking a look at those comments and saying, everything that Brady thinks we're going to do, we need to do the opposite of? We need to confuse him. We need to make sure that what he sees is nothing like what he's accustomed to seeing. Like, this is, to me, is a fascinating chess battle because I want to see the coach Belichick try to scheme up against the guy who knows him better than anybody. And the fun part about this line is it's going to continue to go up. Bucks and Bucks and Bucks and Bucks. Like, it's already climbing. It's 6.5. I can't figure out where the sportsbooks are going to end this line because the public's going to be all over it. I think the sharps are going to come in at New England until it gets to that line of 7. And then I think the public's going to push it over the top. And so if I can get the Patriots 7.5 at home, even against Brady, because Brady just wants to win. And yeah, he'd like to be able to stick it to him a little bit. But if Belichick is the coach that we all believe him to be, I think they're going to scheme up something that is going to confuse Brady for at least a little bit, maybe catch him off guard. And if you can get that and actually make some plays on the offensive side of the ball, because we talked about it last week, guys, the Bucs corners have not been good this year. So if you can get any sort of opportunities to confuse them, get some movement downfield, run the ball, yeah, I think the Patriots at plus 7.5 is another as another favorite for New England. I think this is the play. I like the Patriots, provided that they can get that number past 7.5.
I'm riding with the public hard this week. Hard. They are gonna crush New England. It was like the third time. I do have a lot of conviction this week. I do, and maybe that'll come back and bite me in the ass. I guess I look at this game and I think to myself, if I bet on New England, I've got to go into that game and see Brady fired up out of his mind and then look at Mac Jones and be like, all right, here we go. I'm not betting on Mac Jones in this game. And it's not even because I don't like Mac Jones. It's just you're going against Brady. Like, has anyone ever been in a harder spot in their life than in this game? Like, you're getting Brady, who is going to want to kill them and has all the weaponry to do it. And you're going against Mac Jones, who is the ultimate, like, hey, check it down. I agree with you that Belichick will have wrinkles for Brady, and he'll give him some problems early in the game. I agree. I think that will happen. However, because Brady's been an NFL quarterback for about 59 years, I think he's also eventually going to figure it out. And when he does, it's a boat racing because New England does not have anywhere near the talent to keep up in this game. Like they just got killed by New Orleans. So I like Tampa by a couple of touchdowns. I do. I normally worry about the road favorite, especially in prime time. This is an exception for me because of Brady and all the circumstances and everything else.
All right. One of our lengthiest prediction segments in the history of prediction segments, but I enjoyed every damn second of it. Ben Heisler is the managing editor at FanSided. Check all your bets out at winbet.com. And Ben, we're going to see you next week, buddy.
See you next week. I'm glad we went long, Carm, so you had the opportunity to write all those plays down. So now you can actually come back and hold us accountable.
It's on the document. I started writing them down. I was like, you know what, this is a bad plan. I'm going to lose this.
Your arm probably got tired because you were talking so much.
Right. I was. If it's 7.5, if we go here, I was trying to figure out where we're at here, but I got it. Although I'm a little confused on what happens if it sits at 6.5 on New England. I still put you with the Pats, so you got them.
Fine. Give me the Pats plus 6.5.
Wherever it is, you've got New England. If thing moves to 4, you've got the Pats. All right. We know that's not going to happen. Ben, thanks, brother.
See you guys.
This podcast is brought to you by FanSided. Join our community of over 300 sites from sports to pop culture and everything in between.